Welcome to the first episode of the True Demon Lord show, and I am the True Demon Lord, Franco McDonald. Um, and basically, this is just going to be the ultimate place to come for Chaos Demons, all the tips, tricks, tactics, narrative, competitive, lore, etc., etc. I'm just a very passionate solo demon specialist that wants to try and help other players, whether new or existing, long time or even just short time players, just anyone that wants to learn anything and everything about Chaos Demons. I want to help out as much as I can, share all the knowledge that I have gained through playing the faction for 17 years, whether it be casually at my local clubs or competitive events which I attend pretty much every weekend. So that's what we're here to do. That is the goal. That is the aim. And to help that, I would very much appreciate any likes and subscribes. It would be massively appreciated. It would help me being able to continue to do this and achieve the goal that I want to achieve. Um, and so, yeah, so without further ado, let's get straight into the first video. So today we're going to focus on Demon Stratagems and just going over best ways to use them, best units maybe to use them on, and we're going to go from least useful to most useful. So I'm not saying any of them are bad because I don't think we have a bad stratagem. I think they're all good in their own way. There are definitely ones that are probably more useful and definitely better than other ones. So we're going to go straight up from least useful, least used, up from to the best ones, the most useful ones. So in number 6, we've got Demonic Invulnerability. Now, I like Demonic Invulnerability. I actually use it a fair bit, but I know a lot of demon players that don't use it often. And I would say probably the fact that it is locked to just your opponent's shooting phase, you can't use it in the fight phase, definitely dampens its usefulness. So it lets you reroll invulnerable saves of 1 in your opponent's shooting phase, which is pretty good. Probably not great on a lot of our units. Most things with a 5-up invuln, unless you really need that unit to stick around, it's going to score you an extra 5 on primary at the end of the game. Maybe that could make a difference in the overall points. But this is really good in combination with our tougher units. For example, the Great Unclean One with the Endless Gift, probably our toughest individual unit. He's already very tough. He's tough as 12. He's got 20 wounds. He's already got 4 in one with the 5-up final plane, which becomes a 4+ within the Shadow of Chaos. And you're going to generally keep him as much in the shadows as possible because that 4-up final plane is just fantastic. So rerolling the Invons of 1, again, he's already very tough to kill, just makes it even harder to deal with him, especially in a turn where your opponent really needs to try to get rid of him, whether he's holding an objective that your opponent needs to get rid of him for cleanse, or area denial, assassinate, bring it down, whatever the reason. He's already very tough to kill, so rerolling Invons of 1, if you're facing a lot of shots, you're facing a lot of lethal hits or sustained hits or stuff like that, is just really good to have. The keepers with the Aegis as well, and Shalaxi, again, tough units. Keepers are innately -1 to hit, so having reroll invulns of 1 on them with a 4+ invuln as well, already pretty good. 5-up for no pain, same as Shalaxi, 5-up for no pain with the 4-up invuln. Just to really get the usefulness out of them. Again, 2 already tough units, just upping that durability. And then one of my favorite combinations with this is pink horrors. So I personally love pink horrors. I think they are generally one of the best units we have. They win me games on a regular basis. So they're a pain to get rid of unless your opponent can throw out enough shots. And there are some units in the game that can definitely do it, but not too many. And so for those of you that aren't too familiar with how pink horrors work, when a unit has finished their activation attacking a unit of pink horrors, um, if the unit wasn't wiped out, but models were destroyed, you then roll a dice for each horror that did die. If it was a pink, it now becomes 2 blue horrors, and if it was a blue horror, it becomes a base of brimstone horrors. So the idea is, though maybe not the toughest unit itself, tough as 3, not too tough, 1 wound apiece. 4-up in 1 is pretty good though, but the fact that you're on average getting um, 25 models in the unit is pretty good. The pink horrors are OC2 as well, so again, it's a really good way to make sure you're holding primary as much as you can. And 4 invulns rerolling 1 could definitely make the difference between losing and keeping that last 1 or 2 pink horrors that then allows you just to be able to split. So definitely a great combination there. Something I use here and there, and again, it has worked pretty tremendously for me. So Demonic Invulnerability, not the most useful stratagem, hence why it is at the bottom at number 6, but I feel like in the right use, in the right circumstances, definitely fantastic. So moving on to number 5, we have Corrupt Rospace. Again, another useful stratagem that probably, due to the fact that CP is a bit restricted, especially if you're not running tactical objectives, probably one you're not going to use too often. But Corrupt Rospace is basically your sticky objective stratagem. So you use it on one of your demon units at the start of. Key here is any command phase, not just your command phase. So you can do this in both your turn and your opponent's turn, which is really, really good. Um, so for the rest of the game, until your opponent takes it during any phase, that objective remains yours, even if you're not on it. So if you know your opponent's not very fast, your opponent's not got a lot of deep strikes, can't really go up and down and move about a lot. This is pretty good to land on the objective, like say far off into the corner, pop this, and then carry on. So it allows you just to make the most out of your army while still scoring your primary points. The other key part to this stratagem is while that objective is corrupted, so while it is still under your control after using this stratagem, the area 6 inches around the objective itself become under the shadow of chaos, which is pretty good. So you can use this in the start of your command phase if you don't have shadows up in the middle because your opponent's taken that extra objective that gave you half the objectives in no man's land. You can use this and you can now drop 6 or more inches away instead of 9, as long as you drop wholly within 6 of the objective. A good way to punish opponents that are too close. Another really good tip I like to use for this stratagem is proccing this in the beginning of your opponent's command phase. If you know they're going to come for this objective, they make it all the way to the objective, but if they aren't able to swarm it and they're able to just get to the edges of it, you can then rapid ingress 6 or more away if you're landing wholly within the bubble of the objective, which might allow you to then be able to tip yourself onto the objective itself. Another good way is to be able to use this to then drop down, say, a greater demon near a unit that is on the objective. So if your opponent is planning on charging it, you have a good heroic intervention threat there as well. So again, some pretty good uses for it. Another really good use for it is being able to stick it with a unit, for example, Flesh Hounds or something like that, and having Nurglings move onto it or already be on it, whatever. And then if you either took Cleanse as a fixed objective or you managed to draw it during the game, you don't need anyone else on the objective, just the Nurglings, because it is under your control because of Corrupt Rospace. So again, definitely a handy stratagem to have in the toolbox, but maybe not one you'll be using on a lot of occasions. But is there when you need it and can be very good and very handy to use when you do need it. So, moving into number 4 is Warp Surge. So, fantastic, gives you advanced charge. The caveat is you have to be within the shadows of chaos in the charge phase when you do make the charge roll. But again, if you're planning on using this, you can do it because you've got all the way into the charge phase till you have to use it anyway. So you can take it in the movement phase, take the middle in the shooting phase by clearing a unit off the objective you've moved on to, or just be within 6 inches of Be'lakor if you're dropping Be'lakor down through for whatever reasons, for Realm of Chaos or whatever. You can kind of make this quite easy to get within shadow range of the unit you've done this with. And this is really good on Blood Crushers or even Bloodthirsters or any kind of greater demon, any unit that kind of needs some um, maneuver around terrain pieces. So given that extra D6 inches of movement is pretty nice. It also is just nice to have as a threat in the back pocket as well. You might not even need to use it, but the fact that your opponent knows you have it, because any good opponent will ask, "Can you advance and charge?" Telling them you have this, especially if you have Shalaxi, instantly makes people just so much more fearful because now they plan, oh, now she has like a threat range of 32 inches. And it's like, yeah, yeah. So it's just even if you don't use it, just leave it in the back pocket and your opponent knows you have it, can definitely maybe make them play a bit more cagey, which allows you to be a bit more liberal with your movements and using those big pieces like Shalaxi or Bloodthirsters or Blood Crushers or whatever to keep that ongoing advance and charge rate going. Um, Also very good for late game if you really need to get onto an objective and you've got Shalaxi or you've got Blood Crushers and you need to get to an objective this can definitely help you get there closer, because obviously rolling that d6, if you can get a 4, 5, or 6, gets you the easier charge, especially with, again, blood crushes with the +1 to charge. So even really handy to have. The only reason it probably sits here rather than third is just because the next one has a bit more overall use. To be honest, number 3, number 4, um, you know, you can kind of move about depending on how you like to play, stratagems you really like using. So going into number 3, we have Dra Tera. It ups the AP of all your weapons on the chosen demon unit by 1. Um, the caveat is if the unit is battle shocked, you then can also reroll all win rolls. So though that bit isn't going to come in too often, the +1 AP already is good enough, especially on units like the Lord of Change. He's got a lot of shots, AP2, AP1. Being able to proc this against, especially against unit armies like Space Marines or Class Space Marines, where they have the ability to reduce your AP. This just stops your damage from being completely blunted, so you can counter that. Um, Also, in 10th edition, getting cover saves is a lot easier, so this is another way to go about it. And this is also very good on units that ignore cover, like Flamers, the Great Unclean, Rotigus, all have fantastic torrent weapons that ignore um, cover. So being able to proc that extra point of AP just adds to that, being able to break through the armor save or knock them to their invulnerable save, etc. etc. So the second part of it is reroll the 4 wounds if the unit is battle shocked. I mean, we have a lot of ways to battle shock units, but maybe not the most ideal ways, or best ways to do it. Good ways to try and take advantage of this is skull cannons. So whenever they shoot at a unit, after they've finished shooting, you pick one unit they shot at. That unit immediately takes a battle shock test. If that unit is in your Shadows of Chaos, they are also at -1 now. So you can then cause not just mortal wounds through failing battle shocks in the shadows, but if you're planning on charging, say, blood crushers, then being able to force them to take that battle shock and fail allows you to then proc this and get +1 AP on your swords and your horns, and then also be able to reroll wounds, which is fantastic. The blood crushers also have a character, the Skullmaster, which is your herald on Juggernaut. He also, whenever he finishes or his unit finishes a charge move, all units there within engagement range with must now take a battle shock test. Again, if you're within the shadows or they're within the shadows, they're at -1. And again, a really good little combo to use here. So now we're really at the meat and potatoes of demons. So these top two are 100% top two. Like there's no give with where these two sit. Um, and they allow us to really stay in games no matter how bad it's getting. It really allows us to just be able to pull points out the bag from nowhere. So Denizens of the Warp is at number 2. It's your 3-inch deep strike stratagem. Allows you to come 3 inches away instead of 9, or 6 in our case with shadows. And this is a great way to steal primary points, being able to drop Pink Horrors or Plague Bearers or Rotigus, who has a 6-inch aura of -1 OC. Drop them 3 or more inches away on an objective that your opponent is on if they've not screened it properly, and being able to either deny their primary points, score you cleanse, score you tempting target, and capture enemy outposts as well if they're not able to properly screen out their own objectives. So some really nice little tricks here. Another really cool trick is using it on Be'lakor. So upping and downing him with the next stratagem we're going to talk about. And then when you bring him down, you use this so you don't have to worry about where he comes down because you give him a nice bit of leeway. And then when he drops, everything that comes within 6 inches of him wholly can then come 6 inches away from your opponent's units. So using him like a drop pod, just dropping him anywhere 3 or more inches away, and then fitting units like Shalaxi, Blood Thirsters, Blood Crushers, etc., etc., wholly within that 6 inches bubble of him. It's just a really nice, almost surprise for your opponent to deal with. So, Denizens of the Warp is a fantastic stratagem to have. Again, just like we said earlier, it's a very good mental um, issue to cause for your opponents. Knowing that you have the 3-inch deep strike means they will either overcommit to screening because now they know they have to screen Be'lakor out. They have to make sure when they're moving on to every objective, they're moving properly on it to screen the 3-inch deep strike out, which means they're getting closer to you, meaning you can come in, get closer charges. being able to use Warp Surge to advance and charge, and again, not needing as far to get there, for example. But also, it calls them to maybe be a bit too defensive with it, and in that case, not have as many units forward for scoring primaries, scoring secondaries, etc., etc. So, denizens of the warp, any kind of 3-inch deep strike strat, they're becoming a bit more common, but they're always fantastic to have. And since we only have the one detachment at the moment, we don't have anything else to choose from. So just having it in our only detachment is fantastic. And then finishing off the video at number 1 is Realm of Chaos. It is just an untouched stratagem. Unfortunately, there are a lot of armies in the game that have similar abilities, but don't have to pay CP for it, and they get generally about 3 units. But without complaining, we still have access to it. So Realm of Chaos lets you at the end of your opponent's turn pick up 1 unit or 2 units if they're both within the Shadows of Chaos. You pick them up, remove them off the battlefield, and bring them back down in your next reinforcement steps. So your uppy downy strat. Up and down strats are fantastic. They allow you to continuously play the secondary game. Whether you've gone fixed and you've gone for deployed teleport homers, cleanse, engage in all fronts, this just continuously allows you to play those missions. If you've gone tactical, again, it just keeps you in the game, being able to up and down at the end of your opponent's turn 1, come back down in your turn 1, being able to do it turn 4, turn 5, allowing you to, in combination with denizens of the warp, being able to fit into gaps that your opponent might have screened to score things like deploy teleport homers, or being able to squeeze yourself onto an objective to steal cleanse, or even to capture an enemy outpost. So yeah, up and down it's always going to be a good ability or good stratagem if you have access to it. Same as like Necrons, Grey Knights, GSC. It just allows you to continuously play the game no matter what, play the missions, and though you may be down on points, being able to just keep going and going, where your opponent may not have these type of abilities and may run out of steam because they just can't score certain secondaries, we still always have play. I still always every turn make sure I have the CP available for Realm of Chaos, as well as maybe another CP for Denizens of the Warp. So overall, fantastic stratagems to have. Um, and I think we have a great set of stratagems. I think they allow us to continue playing the game up and down with Realm of Chaos, 3-inch deep strike with denizens, allows us to play the mission very well, as well as be able to deny primary quite well as well. Warp Surge, again, lets us get in closer, allow us to really be able to make some charges that might have not been possible, would have been quite hard. Dra Tera just ups the damage capabilities of certain units by just upping that AP, trying to ignore cover and stuff like that. And even just demonic invulnerability um, or sticky objectives, corrupt Rospace, just allows us to again just have all these different tools that allow us to play the game in different ways, makes your opponent think constantly, which is something that's very good in this game. If your opponent's able to play the game without having to think too much, they get to play their game however they want, and they're not going to make mistakes. Whereas if you're pressuring them with constant thoughts, even just using a stratagem once during the game might make them think, oh, they could do that again. So definitely great to have. We've got very great stratagems available to us, and I think they're going to help carry us into the new codex. So that is it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. It helps massively and it'll allow me to continue to do these kind of videos. Please check out our Facebook and our Instagram, True Daemon Lord, to keep up with video uploads, competitive events that I attend, hobby progress, etc., etc. Check out Creature Cast as well. Some awesome third-party demon models, whether it be big old monsters, little heralds, even alternative plague bearers and demonettes and stuff. They just got fantastic sculpts out of resin. Just awesome models, and I use a lot of them myself. And then please go check out 6 Plus Plus. Great videos from there, generalized videos, and check out the Facebook pages. Keep up the track with everything they do as well. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next one.